What's up, guys? So I got this new GoPro and I haven't really figured out what to do with it yet. I used to make videos in my car all the time, like I had a blog.
Yeah, Daddy will walk you to the yellow poles.
What's yellow?
You'll see. Over by the lunchroom, multi-use room.
I just hit the biggest puddle. It was awesome. It was wicked. It was all... Oh, I just spit all over my windshield. In about the mid-2000s, and I'd make videos of random things that I wanted to talk about. Funny things, family things, whatever. Anyway, so I figured I would start a new segment. Unplugged. On the road with Tom. There you go, that's it. Sorry, I've had a lot of new segments. I usually do one video. I make an intro for it and then do one video and then it's gone. But, so, figured I'd talk about, I don't know, things that make me mad. On my phone, I keep a list of things that piss me off. Oh, also when I drive, I get a little aggressive. I'm a super slow driver. I mean, not stupid slow, but I'm slow. I'm slower than my family. Kids make fun of me, but whatever. But I still get pissed off at other drivers, and I could swear. Also, whatever I'm ranting about, that might make me heated and might curse a little bit. So if you are young or your ears are sensitive, turn it off. If you're a parent watching with your kid and you don't want them to hear bad words, I'm not saying there will be bad words, but there could be. So on my phone, I keep a list of things that piss me off. And find one. Oh, the top one. It's not necessarily something that pisses me off, but I think it's a good one. It's a good topic for discussion. Handshakes. Shaking hands. All right, let's get on the road. That'll be the tagline or the start line. Let's get on the road. That's stupid. All right, so handshakes. If you are an adult and you're around children, like a coach, especially a coach of like young players, whatever sport. You know, I started coaching lacrosse at the bobblehead level, so these were like 6-year-olds. And not many 6-year-olds know how to shake hands. A few of them do, because a few parents understand the importance of the handshake. Now, a 6-year-old doesn't really have to have a good handshake, but there's no reason you can't start teaching them how. So when I shake hands, you know, kid gives me a bad one, I say, all right, here, bud, this is how you do it. You know, and you go through the steps. In high school, yes, it's forgivable if you've got a bad handshake. No one's taught you how to do it. There are a lot of things high school students don't understand because they haven't been taught. That's okay. College level kids with bad handshakes, you know, you're old enough to know. You should have learned. You should have figured it out. Someone should have told you that you've got a bad handshake. I can't say handshake right now. Actually, bad handshake. Those two words together sometimes make me fumble. Bad handshake. See? Bad handshake. Bad handshake. I got a bad handshake. But if you're an adult and you've got a bad handshake, I know that it's petty, but I think less of you. It is such an important part of our culture. Now, I'm talking about American culture here because other cultures don't shake hands, or they shake hands differently, or they don't put as much weight, importance on the handshake. So, you know, talking to my American listeners, viewers, whatever. As an adult who understands handshakes, as a parent, you need to teach your kids how to do it. It is so important. You know, when you're meeting someone for the first time and you're shaking hands, that's their first impression, right? Obviously, they get a look at you. If you're a mess, you know, that's what they're paying attention to. But then if you shake hands like an absolute slug, they're going to recognize that. That's what they're going to focus on. And a bad handshake can be gross. When you get that limp, dead fish thing, like, hey, here's my hand, go ahead and shake it. It's gross. And there are a couple things, there are a couple rules that you need to remember. And it's simple. If you've never been taught how to shake hands, or someone's ever said to you, "Oh, dude, you gotta learn how to shake hands," whatever. A couple things. Keywords: firm, but not over firm. Don't ever over grip. And we'll talk about that later. Dry, as dry as you can. Pre-handshake, go ahead and wipe that thing off on your pants or your shirt. Maybe not your shirt, it's a little obvious, but if down on your pants. But a moist handshake is forgivable. It's understandable, because if you're in a situation where you're nervous, job interview, something like that, it's only natural. But do what you can. Polite. It's got to be a polite handshake. And by polite, I mean eye contact, sincere. If you're just like, whatever, people can feel it. Even if you do make eye contact, do give a firm handshake, people can tell if it's sincere or not. So be sincere. If this is not a person you want to shake hands with, man up and don't do it. Like, I don't respect this dude. He puts his hands out to me, and this is an absolute douche nozzle that I don't like. I'm not shaking his hand. You don't have to. You don't have to shake hands. If this person doesn't deserve your respect, you don't give respect, right? That's something that's another topic. Respect. People are like, you got to respect me. No one just automatically gets respect. You get respect when respect is earned. Anyway, a handshake is a form of respect. And if this person doesn't deserve your respect, you don't have to shake his hand. But for the most part, you do. So polite. Make eye contact. Be sincere. Firm, but don't over grip. And here's the steps. You lock in the webbing, right? Right there. You lock webbing, then you grip. And you grip firmly, but you don't over grip. There's a thing with some men, and it makes me cringe. It's embarrassing. And I know a few guys, I know a few coaches who I play every year, and they're just, try to crush your hand. It's not a form of masculinity. It's not an expression of masculinity. It's an expression of insecurity. If you're trying to buckle my knuckles, fold them in half, you're trying to prove something to me that doesn't need to be proven. Sometimes you'll get a coach after a loss. They're upset and they try to over squeeze. But there are also coaches who just wipe the field with you, who are now trying to establish this alpha presence by crushing your hand. It is so embarrassing. I feel bad for you. This isn't the way it's done. We just played a great game, win or lose, even if we were yelling at each other on the sidelines, right? Which you shouldn't do as a coach, but it happens. We coached these boys to a game well played, win or lose. You beat us by 20, we beat you by 20, whatever. We got to play the game. We got to coach the game. We got to give these children the game. We shake hands. We respect, and like I said, respect, but it's customary to shake hands after a lacrosse game. You don't have to, but it's customary. So a coach who tries to do whatever they think is happening in their head with their super dominant handshake, it's not happening in the receiver's head. The receiver of a crushing handshake is just going, what a f***ing douchebag you are. Fuck off. And then, that's the impression that you've got of this guy. Now, most masculine guys, most overly masculine guys who are compensating in whatever way, for whatever reason, they really would hate the idea of someone thinking they were insecure, even though all the signs are there. So guys, if you are over gripping, if you're crushing someone's hand in a handshake, that person doesn't think you're a badass. That person doesn't think you are masculine. That person is like, what is this guy compensating for? What a goon. Like, this is embarrassing. So don't do that. Also, the early grabber. This is another form of dominance in establishing their alpha presence, is that early grab. So bloop, on the fingers. The best way to handle that, because this guy's like, oh, got your fingers, oh, I'm better than you. All you have to do to take your place on top of him in terms of alpha status, who cares about alpha? You're not really looking for that. But if he's trying to put himself above you by early grabbing, crushing your fingers, whatever, all you have to do is say, that was a terrible handshake, let's try that again. And instantly, you've taken them down a peg. Like, oh crap, oh shit, he called me on my shitty handshake. And then you teach him how to do it. If he tries to go again, just go, wait a minute, let me show you. Lock webs, grip. And he might try to give you an over grip, and there are ways to prevent that. If you know it's coming, if you know this hammerhead is going to over squeeze your fingers, you can, you know, give your fingers like a little curve like this, and what that does is it kind of flexes in here, and you flex these muscles in here, and they won't buckle, at least. And I don't play the game of grabbing as hard as this guy, because some of the guys who are, you know, big, strong dudes who over grab, you know, this is part of who they are. I'm not going to beat them at this game, but if I don't let them crush it, you know, at least I held my ground, and I didn't stoop to their level by squeezing hard. You know, get that handshake, let them go, get in their lifted truck with the vertical rolling coal smokestack exhaust, their balls hanging off the back of their truck. Let them think they won. I don't know. These guys are the worst. But, you know, the handshake is, like I was saying, it's so important because it is such a part of our culture, and it is often the very first interaction you'll have with someone. You know, obviously your appearance, they're going to judge that when they see you, but the first true interaction is, you know, hey, this is my friend Tom. Hey, how you doing? Boom, the handshake's right there. And if it's bad, you know, that's like, man, that guy can't shake it. I have a couple friends who are just terrible at handshaking, and I've tried to help them. I don't see him very often, but you know, there's one early grabber, and it's happened every single time that I've shaken his hand, that I know it's something that he's doing on purpose, right? You'd think, like, well, if that was an accident, you know, one of the other times we shook hands, maybe we would have gotten it right. But every single time, you know, he feels that as soon as he feels the fingers, he's going for fingers. And I'll be like, dude, let's try that again, and then we'll get a good one. But, you know, the initial handshake is always bad. And if I were just meeting him for the first time, I would instantly have this view of him. And anybody, you know, the limp-wristed dead fish, zero grab, the early grab, the over squeeze. And if you are the kind of guy who needs to, you know, you're assertive, you're not necessarily looking to be dominant or alpha or whatever, there are a couple classy moves you can do. One is a nice firm web-to-web, firm handshake, eye contact, and you can reach in and touch the arm, you know, touch the elbow, like, you know, get in, and it's like, yeah, and that's a nice handshake. Also, in lacrosse games, when I'm shaking hands with the other team or the other coaches, I do a handshake, shoulder tap, like, you know, just a little extra. And it's not to establish anything, it's just to make it a little more sincere. So if you are a high schooler who can't shake hands, or you're worried about it, you know, if you're watching this on your phone, just turn to your buddy right now and say, hey, shake my hand. And analyze his handshake, and ask him how yours is. Shake a few people's hands. You know, ask your mom. You know, moms sometimes are better handshakers than dads. I've known, because I know a lot of lacrosse parents. Sometimes dads are just like, and moms are like, oh, right there. So get some feedback on your handshake, because it's not just some random custom that we do. It's an important part of presenting yourself, and it's not a joke. I mean, it's for real. Like, you will make many first impressions in your life, and a handshake will be a part of most of those. So do it well. Why not give yourself that little extra added benefit of a good handshake? And I don't know about you guys, but I recognize a good handshake. I'm like, damn, that's a good handshake. If you're ham-fisted, if you've got big fat ham hands, you have to be conscious of a lot of things. Like, you're going to just completely envelop this other person's hand. So your over grip, you know, your grip strength has to be on point. Especially if you're shaking someone's hand who's a lot smaller, like a smaller woman or a child or something. If you've got dainty hands, you may suffer the overgrip even if they don't mean to. So you got to go in firm here in the mid hand. Children, middle schoolers, some high schoolers, you know, young high schoolers, it's forgivable. It's understandable. You haven't been taught. If you're in college, you know, it's time. It's time to either learn how to do it, or, you know, you should have done it already. If you're out of college, if you're a full-grown adult and you've got a bad handshake, I'm willing to bet you're a disappointment to someone. Your parents. Probably not. Your parents didn't teach you how to shake hands, so you're just a disappointment to me. Anyway, guys, have your mom and dad evaluate your handshake, or go evaluate theirs. Teach them if they don't know. Little brother, friends, start shaking hands, you know. And it's flu season, so have a little bit of this. I keep this in my car for after lacrosse games, because lacrosse players' hands are gross after games, and you're shaking those hands. You know, you get in the car after a game, and you're just like, what the, oh God, you know, you got glove stink on your hand. This stuff doesn't always take away the stink, but it will, at least it'll kill whatever kind of friggin' goobers are in there. So in closing, if you understand a good handshake, you need to also understand the value of a good handshake, the importance of a good handshake, and you need to pass that information on, even if it's awkward for the other person, right? You're helping them. You're not, it might seem belittling, but if you go, oh, wait a minute, let's try that again. And then, you know, you don't have to guide them through the steps, but you can, once you say, whoa, let's do that again, they're going to be like, well, maybe I did something wrong. And they'll be a little receptive to, you know, accepting the full-on webbing. Coaches, you know, I do this in lines, shaking hands, and I'm sure a lot of the people I've coached against and played against and shook hands in line can attest to this, because it happens at least once a handshake. I'll get a really bad handshake with a kid. Maybe not his fault, but, you know, you're kind of moving and you're shaking a lot of hands. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you, whatever. If you get a bad one, you can stop the line and say, whoa, let's do that. Let's get that one again. Just like coaches, if there's a player that you're super impressed by who did something amazing, stop the line, tell him, dude, that low to high rip right in the corner was amazing. Or a goalie, you know, you can stop and talk to a goalie for a couple seconds. The line will wait. No one's in that big of a hurry. You know, in the age of killer flus and unvaccinated children, you know, handshakes sometimes are a little scary. I tell my kids, you know, when I coach teams, it's like helmets off, right glove off, shake hands, make eye contact, be sincere. A lot of times you'll get kids in line with a glove on, fist bumping. As a coach, I'll try to guide them into a handshake. As an opposing coach, try to guide them into a handshake if they're bumping. But if they're going to give me, I'll just, you know, give them one of those. Just shake their fist. I'm not going to bump. I don't like it. I have started bumping a lot more at our own practices. You know, these kids I see every day. They're thanking me every single day after practice, which I appreciate. Also, young coaches of young kids, if you're an assistant coach, tell them after every practice, thank your coach. Like, it's kind of weird when the head coach says it, because like, hey, everyone, thank me after practice. It's a little awkward. It's a little weird. But if you're an assistant coach, remind these kids, hey, this is a guy who doesn't have to be out here. He's out here imparting some serious knowledge on you. He's helping you play the greatest sport on earth. Thank him. And with that thank you comes a handshake. So all my youth teams, you know, they shook my hands every day. Every day after practice, and that's where I taught all these kids how to shake hands. Obviously, some of them had parents that taught them, but, you know, as a coach, that's just one of the things. You're preparing these people not just to be lacrosse players at the next level, you're preparing them to be human beings at the next level, and a good handshake is part of that, folks. All right, guys, I'm almost home, so thank you for listening to me rant about handshakes. I don't know that person, so I'm not going to answer. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.